Hello, this is Cotton Stoops and welcome back to another Lumion Legacy HTUC video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Tyrecks. Tyrecks has gotten a new addition to its move pool and has introduced some few sets and some new matchups in this metagame. So let's talk about it from the counters and checks and teammates in order to know how to use Tyrecks in your battles, as well as knowing the sets and the roles that Tyrecks can play in order to team build around it. Today's video, we're going to be talking about how to use and counter Tyrecks. So the role that Tyrecks is going to be playing in your matches is a question that you need to ask yourselves, and we can answer that question with its base stats. For the most part, your base stats are all pretty simple. Your worst stats are going to be your range attack, range defense, and speed. Your range defense actually isn't all that bad, although because your range defense is just fundamentally lower than all your stats, this is most likely going to be the weak point that most opponents will be searching for. However, with different abilities and sets, that will change. As for your speed tier isn't bad by any means because it is going to be exploiting a bunch of walls. However, because this does get outsped by pretty much most offensive Lumions in this metagame, this is a speed tier you want to take note of. Other than that, you do have a decent HP and energy stat of both 89, allowing you to have some pretty decent range defense bulk even if you're not pretty invested into it, and your energy stat gets you up to some pretty comfortable benchmarks without investing a lot. And of course, your best stats are your melee attack and melee defense of 111 and 102 on your melee defense. Your ability Terrifying will help your melee defense even better, as you can just subtract a -1 stage from the melee attacker in front of you with Terrifying, and this will also leave way for more TP spreads around some bulky variants of range defense Tyrecks, which can balance out both of its defenses. In fact, it has some pretty good defensive niches, especially with its defensive typing, with Earth and Metal, although being weak to 5 typings of Fire, Earth, Plant, Brawler, and Water, all pretty common typings in this metagame. It does have some useful resistances, that being to Air, Bug, Toxic, Metal, Ancient, Mind, and Typeless, and of course an immunity to Electric. Bunch of these typings are not that common, but for the likes of Electric, Metal, Ancient, Mind, and Typeless, those are all pretty good typings to resist, even if you're just going to be an offensive variant of Tyrecks. So that pretty much sums up all of what Tyrecks is going to be playing. It's going to be a bulky offensive Lumion that's going to take advantage of its matchups and its defensive typing to swap in and deal massive amounts of damage. And of course, it does have some great defensive niches with its ability Terrifying and its defensive typing, allowing it to get some pretty good matchups against the likes of Halvantic and more to come. Anyways, let's get right onto the sets. So first off, this is going to be a bulky wall breaker variant of Tyrecks. Unfortunately, defensive sets of Tyrecks has fallen out of the meta quite a bit, considering there aren't much to invest defensively. However, because of our speed stat is pretty low, we can act as a bulky wall breaker that specializes in breaking through defensive teams. Your ability of choice is going to be Power Jaw or Terrifying. Power Jaw simply because of Vice Jaws, and Terrifying you can choose to run if you want some more defensive capabilities on your team. However, this set can run either or. Your personality is going to be Brawny, Clever, Very Clumsy. If you are not running Terrifying, then I would consider running the other set that I'll mention later, or a mixture of Very Brawny or Brawny Robust. Very Brawny helps you break through the likes of Obsidian if you do have a metallic essence and +1 on the Obsidian swap, and complete demolition, which moves on to this moveset. Usually, Earthquake and Sharpen, they're your best moves and the moves you'll want to run on almost all Tyrecks until Tyrecks gets an Earth-type chopping move where you can run with Vice Jaws. Vice Jaws is going to be for Power Jaw, and if you're not running Power Jaw and running Steel Crusher, run Terrifying with Steel Crusher. As for your fourth move option, you have quite a bit of options. Scapegoat is the versatile move option. You can use this to set up on teams that fundamentally cannot break through you through one hit, allowing you Scapegoat to just deal massive amounts of setup. Along with Sharpen, Dodge is ultimately pretty good if you are trying to run Health Amulet. However, Scapegoat in most scenarios, specifically on swaps, is just very good in general. Complete Demolition is also another good option, like I said, for the Obsidian and Tundrelin matchups. And Chomp here is if you're wanting to run Vice Jaws, and specifically a Tyrex in UU where it can break through Maomurk. However, Chomp is going to be the least important out of all of its moves. Your item of choice is going to be the Health Amulet or a Choice of Essence. I particularly would not want to run Milkshake on here because Terrifying and swapping in is just very good synergy with Health Amulet, and Milkshake can't really take advantage of that. Another good example in this meta of Terrifying Health Amulet is Serenite, so that'll give you an idea of how good Health Amulet with Tyrex actually is. And as for your Choice of Essence, I would run the Metallic Essence because Earthquake does get immune by air types, and Metal Essence will help you break through the likes of Tundrelin and Obsidian better. As for your TPs, this is all very simple. 56 speed allows you to outspeed a 200 Brawny Colossotrops. My bad. I'm pretty sure that's what it's for. And it also does speed creep a 40 speed Dragon, trying to outspeed that 200 Brawny Colossotrops. So that's good for you. Your 72 melee defense with 200 HP without or with Terrifying allows you to take a 3-hit KO from a Gnarly Gash, Very Brawny Pitch Black Dark Essence Holovantic, so that's pretty good. If you are running Terrifying, then that's pretty good for you. Your energy and melee attack, they're all pretty self-explanatory. 12 energy to get up to 250. Melee attack, just max that out. And your range defense of 32 is just the leftovers. Notably, this still can take hits from a few range attackers. However, you won't really want to do that unless you know for sure you're able to do that. Other than that, let's go over quickly a fast wall breaker set utilizing mostly Power Jaw in the future, and then your personality being Brawny Nimble. Your moveset is still going to be the same and self-explanatory, and as for your item, also the same. You can also try and run a shell if you really want to, in case you don't want to run Complete Demolition in order to just break through Obsi. However, that has a very unlikely chance of happening, so Essence all the way. As for your TPs, they're very self-explanatory. The energy and melee attack is the same as before. 200 speed with Nimble allows you to outspeed a 200 Very Brawny Holovantic by just 1 speed. It will allow you to outspeed some other Lumens such as Very Smart Valkyries, 200 Nimble Speed Dragonins, and as for your HP, that's leftovers. So with that out of the way, let's get right onto the counters and checks and teammates for Tyrex. So offensive and defensive counters and checks. First off, some brawler types are going to be your best matchups against Tyrex, considering they can just hit it on the melee defense side and hit it super effectively. The best options I would use in order to try and stop a Tyrex are Mutagon and Your Soul. These guys are just the best ones to do because they're the most bulky. As for Gianta and Todd Stab, Gianta is not really that great considering Brawler isn't a stab move, and it don't really want to risk a 1-hit KO from a Steel Crusher or Vice Jaws. As for Todd Stab, it also is pretty frail, however it can still swap in on the likes of Earthquake and also one-shotting Tyrex. Other than that, let's talk about plant types, which also does resist Earthquake, and both these guys having the potential to take advantage of Tyrex, whether would that be Tatab outright KOing it or Nevermare setting up for it. And as for defensive checks and counters, there's really not a lot considering Tyrex can get really strong really fast, and the best answers I would suggest are Your Snack and Harvest Act. It's pretty fine, and as for Your Snack, I would really consider running Pep Jab because a Tyrex with Scapegoat will actually be able to take hits from a Heartbreak, so that might not be optimal for you. As for Maomurk's a good option in UU. However, Chomp you still have to be watching out for. However, that's not really that common. And as for Obsidian is just your all-purpose melee tank. If Tyrex does have the ability to set up on you on the swap, you may have to be careful, but most times out of 10, this is going to be stopping Tyrex. Other than that, let's talk about some of the teammates. And first off, an offensive core that I would really consider running is Tyrecks, Dragadin, and Soulburst Eruptodon. Soulburst Eruptodon provides itself as a pretty good check to the plant types that Tyrex doesn't really want to take hits from, specifically before its Soulburst because it comes neutral to plant types. If you don't want to run Eruptodon, you can run something like a Searonite, a Searonite mainly, so that's good. And Dragadin here mostly takes advantage of Obsidian, Your Snack, and Harvesect, which is pretty good because those answer you completely. As for your other options, Cleone and Tyrex is a pretty good bulky core, considering that they pretty much cover each other's answers, whether that be the fire types that Tyrex doesn't really want to deal with. Cleone can deal with that. And as for Tyrex, Tyrex can just deal with what Cleone doesn't want to deal with. And as for your other options, fire types just to be a pretty good backup to what Cleone cannot wall. And you can also run Obsidian, Your Snack, or any of the other melee walls because this core really doesn't have a core solid answer for the likes of Tatab. So with that out of the way, let's get right onto the conclusion and my thoughts on Tyrex. So that's pretty much it for Tyrex. Tyrex is a pretty decent Lumion, I'd say, in this metagame. It definitely got a little bit better with Vice Jaws and Power Jaw just becoming more useful again. Vice Jaw has some pretty good counterplay, or not counterplay, but it has some pretty good potential for predicting, as the side effect for Vice Jaws is pretty important when dealing with the likes of Obsi, which mostly only has one move to hit you super effectively. So let me know your thoughts on Tyrex. Do you think it's good, or do you think it has fallen off quite a bit? I mean, obviously it has fallen off from its meta because most of the Lumions it can check, now it cannot check anymore. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I think Tyrex is still decent and can still be a pretty good monster in terms of offense, so let me know. Like the video, and of course subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be doing more HTUCs in the future, trying to get more HTUCs out for the stuff that I've missed out on. And yeah, this is Cotton Soup signing off to remind you that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.